But when you're buying eggplant, you have black-skinned eggplant, we have the purple one, we have the Japanese, the sort of zebra-striped. Even though the zebra-stripe and the white eggplant might look like a gentler eggplant, they're actually tougher than the purple one. So when buying an eggplant, first the firmness, and then look at the stem. You see, you want vegetables with the stem because it will sort of ensure some continual nourishment, reinforcing the fact that it is fresh. Picked just recently. Let me just put a little bit of oil in there, and we'll begin simmering the eggplant because it will take a while. And what you want the eggplant almost to break down. Let me just, you cut off the tips. Even peeling an eggplant, it will tell you whether it is fresh. When it is nice and plump, it is taut. Let me, in the meantime, add the ones that I have cut beforehand. I'm gonna put it on the side. The onions should go in first, but I'm so busy. So you see, I make mistakes, but you see how I corrected it? So I put the eggplant on one side, and I'm leaving it there, and I put the onions as I was to do the first. Again, the garlic goes in with the onion. I make a little side hot spot, as I call it, and I leave the garlic on one side to cook, the onions on the other, and the eggplant I have all on one side, and I'll just reintroduce it later. A little bit of salt to get the water out of the onions. You see, this one is a little tough. It's not gliding as the other ones. You see, it's... So you see how it's giving me a hard time? Okay, that's a good indication. You see here it's a little dry. It's a good indication that it's not as fresh as the others. This one is fine. You see the difference? And you can tell a lot by the seeds. No, it's not too bad. There's a little signs maybe of drying out, but not too bad. I'm looking at the seeds. You see, when the seeds begin to be black like that, because the seeds have the tannin, and the tannin is the bitterness that you feel in eggplant. You can salt it and then drain it and dry it well before you make the sauce. Okay? This is a bigger eggplant, so the seeds are bigger. They're just beginning to turn, but they're not brown. I mean, you could just do like this, kick out the pocket of the seeds. As far as cutting the eggplant, put it down, it is firm, you're in control, it's not gonna slip when you apply pressure. You leave your hand parallel to the knife, and you just sort of slide down. Little cubes. Let me add I'll add some more salt. Let's add it all. And this you really want to caramelize and let the eggplant cook thoroughly. And you need to stay close to the pot in the sense that the eggplant soaks up oil, and you don't want to put all that oil. So you want to be next to it and just turn it around so it doesn't stick to the bottom. Some more salt. I'll put some peperoncino now, just to season the eggplant, and of course, zestiness will remain. You actually could having this slowly simmering and going away while you are peeling your tomatoes or skinning your tomatoes. Here I really went in and I really broke it down into the pieces that I would want for this sauce. So the eggplant, these tomatoes, and then whole branches of basil, a nice big handful of basil. When you cook with herbs, there's two folds that you use the herbs. One is really in the sauce, so you extract all the flavor of the herb, and it sort of harmonizes with the sauce. And then at the end, you put some fresh basil on top if you want. So that's why I put it, the whole branches, I put them right in, and they'll let out all of its flavor, and then I'll be able to pluck them out. And when it gets to sort of this kind of breakdown, then you add on all of the tomatoes that you've mushed. Now all of this is good stuff, plus I want some more liquid in here. So I give it a turn and I'm going to risciacquare, slosh this. Let me show you. I call this sloshing. Whether a can of tomatoes, whatever, you know, you just collect everything. I need here a little more liquid, and this way I collect everything. Put in the basil, a little more olive oil. Let me put a little bit of salt for the tomatoes. When it begins to boil vigorously, you give it a good stir. You put the lids a little bit off because you want it to evaporate a little bit, because it has to cook a good 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I'm going to lower it just enough so it has a slow perk, and I'm going to let it simmer. Coming to it periodically just to give it a stir. Let's check the melanzane. Are they smothered yet? They're resilient, and eventually they will break down, but we let them cook. Oh, this has been cooking now about an hour. It needs another hour or so. So again, simmering slowly and mixing it now and then. In the meantime, we'll make the peach bread lasagna. So we have some leftover bread. Here we have some peaches. Let me just peel two. Of course, I got a head start. They don't have to be super ripe. Actually, it's better if they're not, because they will cook and they will just sort of break down in the oven itself. And just right off. So what am I doing here? Just cutting, pushing it up. You actually could take all of the skins and a little sugar and not too much water and just cook it and boil it down, and you make a nice syrup to serve with this for later on. And in this, we'll put some lemon juice. So once you have the lemon juice in your fruit, it will not oxidize, it will not tarnish. So you could make this in advance and then proceed to do the rest. Sugar. And the rind of that one lemon. So you use the lemon juice and you use the rind. And you just toss it well. And let it be until we're ready to stuff the lasagna. How am I going to treat the bread? Well, I'll show you. I want to just remove a little bit of the outside, maybe some of these brown parts that might give it sort of a little bit of a bitter taste. And a serrated knife, of course, you want for this. Okay, and we want 2 layers. So just gauge how much bread you need for the vessel that you're going to use. Bread just like this, it's great breakfast. We used to have sometimes bread fried like that on a plate with some sugar and some cinnamon. That was breakfast for us many times. Okay. This one is fine. Let's put it on the side. So let's butter the vessel itself, just all the way up, all the edges. While the bread is still sort of warm, sugar. Okay, I want that one caramelized a little more. And these seem to be sort of thicker slices, and I'm going to use them for the bottom. And I'm going to put sugar right while they're still warm. Let me put sugar a little bit on the bottom. Okay. So let me choose maybe which one will fit in here. This one, yes. Try to fit them in and press them in. Okay. By now the peaches, the sugar has melted with the peaches, and we'll use half on this layer. And again, press it in because you don't want it to be loose, you want it to be tight so that you can cut it and serve it. And now let's put this one around here, and then I'll fill the middle. Let me just pour all of this right in here. And let's make the crumble on top. This somewhat resembles a cobbler. Get the flour and sugar, all the dry ingredients, and some brown sugar, some cinnamon, and a pinch of salt. And you mix all the dry ingredients together. Then spread the butter, and you want this to be crumbly. You don't want a homogenized mixture. So sort of break it with a pastry cutter. If you don't have a pastry cutter, then 2 knives will do. So you're doing something like this. Okay. And the last, you put in coarsely chopped almonds. I like the skins on. You can do them without the skins. And you sort of just leave it all rough and crumbly. Okay. And you sort of fit it right on top. But it will settle. Once it's baked, it will sort of settle in. Okay. If you like it crumblier, work it less, and there'll be chunks of butter that will stand up, just sort of wrapped with the flour and the dry mixtures, and that's what makes the crumbles. The oven should be 375 degrees, nice and hot. And this will take anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour. Sometimes if you want the top crunchier, give it a little more time. So we'll put it in the oven and then we'll enjoy it. We're ready. The sauce is done. The melanzane affogate. Let me remove, the stems of the basil. Let me give it a good stir here. And of course, we'll make a wonderful pasta dish. But this is the sauce that you can save, that little pint, half a pint, and put it in the freezer. And then you pull it out and you make this wonderful platter of pasta. Let's just add the pasta. So while we do the other ones, the pasta will be cooking and done. Let's give it a stir. Of course, it's salted water, semi-covered. We want it to come back to a boiling point as soon as possible. We'll saute the pasta right in here in this wonderful sauce. Let me just put a little bit of pasta water. You know how I tell you all the time, you save the pasta water, use that pasta water. Now I'll make 2 egg dishes with the same sauce, and they're wonderful for brunch, they're wonderful for lunch, for dinner. This one, especially my grandmother Rosa, that's my mother Herminia's mother. Well, she would make this sauce, and I would go and collect the eggs from the chickens. They sort of cocodé. They make their sound, they're saying, gee, I laid the egg. And she knew which chicken it was, where it was, and she would send me, and I would directly find the egg. In most cases, it was nice and warm still. So, you know, you can't get any better than that. A little bit of salt. Nice and warm, really perking. Let me add a little bit of fresh basil because she will do that also. Just a little bit of fresh basil. Just the sight of it brings me back to a lot of memories. And just a little basil to decorate. Did my grandmother put the basil? Not really. Inside, yes, but she didn't decorate it with it. And just a drizzle of olive oil and with a slice of bread. What a great lunch that was, really. Okay, let me go on to the next. This is the great lunch and a great brunch. A nice sort of gratin dish, just like this. Again, we'll put it in the oven, so you want everything clean because otherwise that sort of bakes onto the dish. Make a little space and we'll nestle an egg right in there. Another little space and we'll nestle an egg right in there. Salt, a little bit of the grated cheese. And this goes in the oven. And the oven about 400 degrees, a nice hot oven. So let's put that in the oven. And let's get to the pasta. Let me check. Yeah, the pasta is just al dente. And this is the way I want it because I will cook it on in the sauce. I will finish it in the sauce. You fish your pasta right out. And if it has a little bit of liquid, that's fine. As you can see, the eggplant almost disintegrates into the sauce. Let me get some fresh basil. You know, we put the basil in first, and I tell you that I put the basil in at the end again to just refresh. Okay. Chop it up a little bit. And add the cheese. Let's put the basil, the last minute. Wow, you should really smell this. Ooh, I'm taking a deep. I would like maybe just a little bit of sauce on top, especially since I'm serving it family style. Look at this plate. This plate is gorgeous. So we'll leave it just like that. So here we have the peach lasagna. It has been resting, and you want it to rest a little bit before you cut it so that the sauce, the juices all really get into the bread. I'm going to just loosen it up. Wow, nice and moist. Should we top this now with some whipped cream? I could put some ice cream on top of that, it's still warm, or just plain whipped cream, and just a dollop like that. And let me pick some mint just to follow a little bit of my decorative instincts here. Little thing. And let me check the eggs. Good timing. And here are these bubbling little devils. Ooh, hot. So let me just shake it for you so you see that now it is cooked. You see? Now the egg is stable. The sauce might be moving, but the egg yolk is stable in there. So it is ready. And all you need to have is a little pint of this sauce, of those little treasures that you hid away during those wonderful summer day that you made it, and you whip up a great brunch with this. I am tempted. This is a dilemma here. What am I going to taste? But I sort of got to remember Grandma. I really do. Actually, I'm tasted right out of the pot. I don't want to spoil these beauties that you have here. Let me taste and see how much this resembles the memories I have of my grandmother Rosa. Delicious, flavorful tomatoes, onions, eggplant, and then the eggs. But at the same time, it is really very mellow, just like I remember it. It's delicious. So I think with all this at the table, with this large spread here, I need to invite you. And as we say at our table, tutti a tavola a mangiare.